In Game 7 of the 1987 Eastern Conference Semifinals, the Boston Celtics narrowly defeated the Milwaukee Bucks 119-113 on May 17, 1987, at the Boston Garden. The Celtics overcame a late deficit, trailing 110-103 with just over 5 minutes remaining, by closing the game on a 16-3 run to secure the victory. Larry Bird led Boston with 31 points, while Robert Parrish dominated the boards with 19 rebounds. For Milwaukee, Sidney Moncrief delivered a strong performance with 23 points. This victory allowed the Celtics to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals, where they faced the Detroit Pistons. The series against the Bucks was intensely competitive, with Boston initially leading 3-1 before Milwaukee forced a decisive Game 7. Let's relive one of the greatest battles between the Celtics and Bucks, that unforgettable Game 7 showdown from 1987.
Cummings glides and then hits Pressey, who's wide open, and has he been hot in the last couple games for the Bucks. And position on Parrish, interception. Bird, he wanted Moncrief, he telegraphed the pass, and Bird goes in, and the blocking foul is called on Sikma, his first. I thought Jack Sikma had pretty good position on that, but apparently he was not sacked.
Now we see this outlet pass. Now you'd think it's just Jack Sikma's fault. Well, Pressey just released a little too much on him, not giving him a good target.
Bird, one of the great free throw shooters, has not been up to par for him so far in this series.
Right away, I can just feel the intensity of this.
Moncrief has been a scoring machine. Pressey takes one from the right corner and buries it. The key issue is that left ankle.
And I think the more he plays, the looser it will get. The big thing is when you take him out of the basketball game, that will stiffen up.
Sikma up over the top. Outlet in the middle. Lucas pushes again. Cummings on the left. Beautiful bank shot for Coach Don Nelson. Winner to take on Chuck Daly's Detroit Pistons. Spinning inside is Johnson. And for Casey, it's all Milwaukee green underneath. Quick pass to Cummings. Back to Lucas. Lucas penetrates. Now Cummings is open on the left side. That penetration draws the defense in.
In his hands, he's into this basketball game.
Inside to Bird. His first field goal. Go along with his 2 earlier free throws. Moncrief. McHale jumped out, influenced the shot. Bird defensive rebound. Here's Ainge on the right wing. McHale ahead of him. Ainge cuts around to the other side. Beautiful driving layup by Benning. Has not started well offensively.
Has no rhythm offensively.
Lucas's 3 on the money. Keski applauding for the Buck bench, and Johnson quarterbacks it now for the Celtics. All 5 of Milwaukee starters have scored in the early going. 7:28 first. It's a 5-point Buck lead. Now McHale will try it again. Spins to the right side. And for McHale, his first field goal with Bill Walton watching for the Celtic bench. Well, 5 of 13 as Sikma rebounds. The Bucks are 6 of 13. And Pressey goes in for the layup. Did not want to play from behind here today in the Boston Garden. It was critical. Parrish waits inside and with his patience puts down the ease. Ainge is there. Glide inside. Great ball movement. Pressey the open man. Well, it's 4-on-2. Now 3-on-2, and they'll hit Lucas. He'll take the 3. His second 3-point shot on the money.
Well, the
4:18 mark opening period. Bird up high. McHale and Parrish pounding away inside. Parrish can't get the layup to fall. The ball won't stay in for the Celtics, and finally, Parrish was persistent, and he knocked it in. His 3rd field goal.
That was a great effort on the offensive boards with McHale and Parrish.
Lucas comes back and answers, and that was a much easier field goal effort for the Bucks than it was earlier for the Celtics. Sikma bangs Parrish as he comes down. Cummings now picks up the Boston center. Into Bird, isolated on Moncrief. Pierce hits him with the double. The hook shot rolls in for Bird. He has 6 in the opening period.
He was triple teamed that time. But the problem at this end, he's got to play Moncrief.
And Bird comes back and slaps the ball away from Pearson out of bounds. By 8 points. DJ gets alone to the glass, turning inside. Nobody's sealing it up. They wanted him to go that way, and there wasn't any defensive help. Lucas, it's a 2. Just inside the 3-point line. That is 10 points. for Lucas in the opening period of Game 7. And at practice, he said yesterday he was looking forward to this one. He said everyone wants to try to beat the Celtics in a Game 7. Moncrief against Bird over there, trying to hold him up fouling. We'll take a timeout here. 2:47 to go in the opening period. The Bucks are up by the 8. He waits for Bird. Brewer picks him up on the switch. Now the shot clock down to 4. Johnson fires up a missed 3. McHale runs it down. Second chance on the good hustle. Seasting and McHale improves his position on the drive. Pierce penetrates for the jump shot. Can't get it to roll. And the foul goes against Milwaukee. Brewer was coming up high on Larry Bird that time. And Sam Vincent checks into the game. Lucas will sit down for the first time in this game. Jack Sikma returns. Cummings also sits down alongside him. So the Bucks lineup will have Brewer, Sikma, Pressey, Moncrief, and Pierce. And Robert Parrish soon to return for Coach Casey Jones.
Both teams are in the penalty.
Billy, for the Celtics, they have Vincent, Bird, Parrish, Johnson, and Kite as McHale sits down.
Offensively, they'll be looking for, I would suspect, either Dennis Johnson.
Back to Pierce. Brewer wants it against Kite. He wants to run the hook shot, and he hits it. Chance for a three-point play. And he shot that hook with a great deal of confidence. Johnson's hands.
We see the scrambling defensively by Milwaukee, taking the Celtics out of their set offense.
And Bird to save it. Benson hustles. After it now was Pressey, and here's Moncrief. Moncrief to the glass. And he drew the foul. That's Bird's first personal foul.
Well, we see two things. We see how this defense has really got the Celtics confused. The other thing, loose balls. We see the Bucks just a step quicker than the Celtics getting these loose balls.
They talk about Celtic pride, Celtic green, all those banners hanging above, and you wonder, does it really mean anything? Well, they have played in 13 Game 7s throughout the history of the storied franchise here on the Boston Garden, and they have won 11 of those 13. You bet it means something. Johnson on the drive, and it was not a clean block. We're live at the Boston Garden with Billy Cunningham. I'm Brent Musburger. Game 7, Eastern Conference semifinal. The Milwaukee Bucks with the ball against the defending NBA champion Boston Celtics. And Sikma hitting the outside shot makes it 36-27 Milwaukee.
But that's so much pressure it puts on Robert Parrish to come out and play Jack Sikma. And that'll, if he has to come out, it's going to open up the lanes.
Ainge responds with a jump shot, his second field goal in the opening period. To the hands of Sikma. Fires up a miss. Parrish out with the rebound, and the first period has come to an end. And Milwaukee very pleased. Casey Jones and the Boston Celtics are behind it, 36-29. Ainge, Johnson taking the shot, and McHale rebounding all alone. There's offensive rebound number 9. Billy, without offensive rebounds, the Celtics would be out of it early.
Absolutely. Jack Sikma did not check Kevin McHale off the boards.
So the Celtics playing with desire, but the Bucks have brought skill. And a left-handed underneath layup by Jack Sikma. There's Ainge's shot. Not well again. Parrish reaching up over the top. Now it's McHale's turn. The long stolen. Here comes Pressey into the hands of Moncrief. 3-on-1. Back to Sidney. His first field goal of this game.
To the hoop.
Bird on the money.
Up on McHale because Dennis Johnson came off the pick and roll and got his hand out there.
Hale outside for his pick. Johnson keeps coming. Missed, and there is McHale again. That is has 12 offensive rebounds for the Boston Celtics.
And that's what happens when you allow penetration.
Cummings against Bird. Bangs off it. The flat jump shot was on the money. Great shot. Hands off to Moncrief. They get it to Cummings underneath.
Well, we see the transition game of Milwaukee.
Cummings taking Parrish.
Yeah, a lot of hesitation there by Dennis Johnson. He should have just taken it strong.
Sigma moved over on the switch and Parrish on. Moncrief goes with Johnson and Bird falls down as Prusy commits his first personal.
Well, that was a good acting job by Larry Bird as well. I'm sure Paul Pressey gets a hold of him, but I know Paul Pressey doesn't have that strength to just pull Larry Bird to the floor.
O'Brien and James Brown standing by in New York. Here is the Birdman. McHale again. They can't keep him off the offensive glass.
Well, when you go to the traps, the little zone traps that they're looking to go to Milwaukee is going to, that opens up the lanes to get to the boards.
Beautiful little jump hook by Paul Prusy. So much easier for the Bucks to score. The Celtics working hard underneath that glass, getting second and third shot opportunities. McHale against the double team. That time it took only one shot. He has scored 14 points in the first half.
The thing about the Celtics, it's one pass and a shot, and I think they have to use a little bit more time and have more patience offensively.
Into Prusy's hands. McHale defensively influenced the shot, and Parrish battling Cummings. The foul going against Cummings. Bird puts it down. Gets it into the hands of McHale. He couldn't quite get the handle. And there's Moncrief showing you what a seventh game effort is all about. Into the hands of Cummings. Cummings to the glass with a left hand. Won't fall. Then he bangs into Bird and commits a foolish foul.
Thing about the offensive rebounding, the Celtics were the poorest team in the NBA statistically getting offensive rebounds.
Great effort by Bird, but it wouldn't fall. Parrish, though, gives the Celtics a second chance, and Johnson cuts beautifully. Turns after a fine first period. Lucas scored 10 points. Out deep to Sigma, who hands to John Lucas. Lucas off a spinner, wants the shot. Gets it to fall.
That's just a great play by John Lucas, because Danny Ainge did exactly what he wanted to do. Stop that penetration.
Now it's Bird inside. Prusy. 12 points for Bird.
Larry Bird reads the defense so well. He felt Pressey on the top side and just rolled to the baseline.
Oh, Lucas feeling fire here this afternoon. That's 14 points. He picks up Ainge. Now they get help and they switch off as he goes over to Johnson. Directing Pierce. Now he switches again. Into McHale, who brings Brewer back out. Puts it on the floor. Cuts inside with his quickness. Goes to the right hand. A fine offensive move by McHale. Ainge with Prusy. They get inside, and McHale at the other end. Playing a fabulous first half. Off to Parrish for the jam.
Now what we're seeing is Kevin McHale is just dominating at the defensive end of the court, blocking the last two shots.
14-6 run, and Sigma misses, but back into the hands of Lucas with McKeskey underneath, keeping it in play.
McKeskey got away with one. That was an offensive foul going to the glass.
Prusy open for the jump shot.
That's
a staggering difference. You would think that the Celtics would hold a lead under circumstances such as that, but they have trailed from the very beginning, except for the opening field goal, which is scored by the Celtics. Johnson.
Lucas came back to double team on Bird. Bird read the double team and found Johnson for the layup.
The kind of game you'd expect from a seventh game. Bird with Lucas, they whip it over to Prusy, a three-point shot. Short, and McHale gets to the iron again. Here's Ainge. Roberts runs the floor. Now it's Bird from behind the three-point line. McKeskey rebounding. Now it's Lucas coming inside. He'll step up to that free throw line and shoot a pair. Great bounce, but off McHale's hands. And still Boston cannot get the go-ahead field goal. Lucas on the drive. Bird defensively, along with Johnson's great save. Now it's Ainge, it's 2-on-1. Ainge to the glass, and McPesky ties him up. Here comes Bill Walton. A dramatic moment. Just the lift that Billy Cunningham predicted when he told you before the game started, but having watched Walton, he expected him to try. And here he is for the first time in the series. Cummings turns on him, and underneath, the foul is going to be called. Roberts and Pierce were going up for the rebound.
Well, we saw Milwaukee came out immediately and looked to challenge Bill Walton going into Cummings. Now, I would think Cummings would rather have the ball out on the wing against Bill Walton and try to force him to move his feet defensively.
Fractured that foot. Same bone that he had fractured earlier in his career. Pressey. Bird spins. Cummings there. Moncrief off. And here's Hodges. Cummings wanted Moncrief, who cut away, and Ainge has it coming the other way. The whistle was blown. The ball may have been out of bounds back there, and it was hard for anybody to hear it because of the crowd noise here in the old Boston Garden.
Careless play by Terry Cummings.
Pressey's three. A somewhat unusual shot choice in that situation. Wants Roberts. Pressey will run it down. Crowd wanted a foul as Roberts went crashing to the floor. They get it inside to Pierce. He's got a chance for a three-pointer. A big play for the Bucks in the closing moments of the first half.
And you have to give credit to Don Nelson, because Pressey was looking to hold the ball up. And as soon as Don Nelson said, go at it, because we have a mismatch at the other end, an advantage because Roberts was on the floor, that's why they got that opportunity.
Last shot time here in the Boston Garden. The Bucks will lead going into the locker room. Johnson goes to the glass. Brewer coming over, takes him down. His third personal foul.
Not to let that player push it the length of the court.
Walton sits down after trying to play. Coming up at the half, we'll have the NBA Draft Lottery from New York. Pat O'Brien, James Brown. Three-point Milwaukee lead. Johnson picking up Lucas. They'll watch Lucas every step of the way if they can. Not knowing. Oh, Lucas was able to spin three and at least get one off. And Larry Bird is the latest to join the walking wounded for the Boston Celtics. Their most valuable player may be Dr. Silva. Pat O'Brien will be back with the Prudential at the half from New York City with the NBA Draft Lottery right after this message.
Better defensively.
No team has repeated since the late 60s as NBA champion. The Celtics want an opportunity as McHale hits a running hook shot. The key numbers for Boston revolve around this man, their superstar. In the second half of this series, games 3, 5, and 6, those are the games lost by the Celtics. Bird's production was way down. Even more dramatic, his performance in the fourth quarter. He has yet to score a single field goal in the fourth quarter of any of the Celtic losses. Jack Sikma up over Parrish. Pressey runs it down, and again the Celtics cannot get over the top of the mountain. Pressey on a beautiful drive, lays it in for his 16th point of this game, and it is a three-point Buck lead. Now it's Bird on a spinner, and it rolled in. 14 for Bird. To Sikma. Parrish. Defense very well, and rebounded his 12th.
The key is he forced Jack Sikma to commit himself. He did not go for the fake. Excellent defense by Robert Parrish.
And now he hooks at the other end, but it is short. Picked up by Parrish. The Chief gets it to fall. And 8:34 the third period.
this continues, Don Nelson's going to have to make an adjustment because they're getting killed on the offensive glass.
Their first lead since they were up 4-2 in the early stages of the game. Moncrief can't get it right back. Off to Bird. Here's McHale.
We see the difference of the fast break. The Celtics move it in the air. Would go back to Moncrief.
Another great defensive effort, and Ames. Dennis Johnson coming down on him, and Moncrief looking for the pick outside. But keep an eye on Moncrief's movement for the Bucks.
And K.C. Jones might have seen that as well.
And Johnson goes to work on him. Not get the ball to him. Sigmund knocks it away, and now it is Ricky Pierce to the attack. Johnson picking him up. They pass it to Plessy. Paul Plessy has scored 20 points here in Game 7. And the Bucks are back to within 1. The series has unfolded this way ever since last weekend in Milwaukee. Bird spinning inside, could not get the Celtic roll that time.
That was some move by Larry Bird because Paul Plessy knew that he was getting that defensive help from Jack Sikma, and he wants to force him in that direction. But Bird still has that quickness and drop step to make that move to the baseline.
You're probably thinking that maybe Milwaukee's confidence started to soar last weekend at home. Not so. It was a loss in which they said, we can beat this team. It was Game 2, and they went down to the closing seconds tied before Dennis Johnson hit a pair of free throws. And afterwards in the locker room, the players to a man said, we've got a chance. They Boston 72, Milwaukee 69. Pierce against the double team made it fall.
Going to that matchup with Ainge playing against Plessy.
And Plessy getting Ainge to the floor, damning some pain as he slowly attempts to get up here. And there will be an injury timeout used as Ainge cannot get up.
It looked like he got a knee to the thigh.
At the right side, we can watch Plessy come into Ainge, and you can see for yourself.
It looked like he got a knee to his knee, and that's awfully painful. Same thing we saw Lucas running into Larry Bird at the end of the first half. There it is right there. Great picture, Mr. Fishman.
Bob Fishman, the director, in the truck alongside the producer Bob Stenner for this, the 7th game of this Eastern Conference semifinal. And Danny Ainge being slowly helped to the sideline by trainer Ray Melchiori and Dennis Johnson. Another injury problem for the champions. Will it ever end? We'll be right back. With the Bucks leading it by a point. Seasting played at Purdue. He's a 6-year NBA veteran. And inside, Seasting and Plessy go at it. And Plessy wanted to come back on Seasting. Rush steps in quickly. There was a moment in the championship series a year ago when you remember Ralph Sampson leveling Jerry Seasting.
Well, we see Plessy fighting through that screen, trying to get to Bird. And Jerry Seasting setting that good screen and sacrificing his body. Now, one thing, Brent, I think the officials in the league have to be aware of this because there's been too many close fights or altercations during the course of the playoffs, and I think the players feel there's two sets of rules.
But I should report that we did not have a fight in the pregame warm-up.
Yes, I know, that hockey game, but I think that the players have to know that they're not going to tolerate this fighting.
Seasting hitting the free throw that has tied the game at 75. So Seasting has that opportunity here, filling in for Ainge as Cummings up over Bird, hits his first field goal of the second half. Tied on the turnover, and it's Plessy. It's 4-on-2. Hits Pierce for the layup.
There we see again that
3 minutes here. It's just Bucks defense. Roberts there with Cummings. Moncrief goes inside, and Cummings will go for the jump shot. up over the top of Roberts, who does not possess the athletic ability of Cummings.
And we see the Bucks going to Cummings with Roberts playing against him.
Sicknick dueling Parrish. Now the Chief puts it down and comes with the jump shot.
What a great effort he's giving Casey Jones in the Celtics ball club, because we could see what pain he was in before this game.
On the drive, Pierce score it, continuation, send him to the line.
That's just a dumb foul. There's no other way to describe it. When you're beaten that badly, you let the man go in for the 2 points.
He's trying to become only the 15th in NBA history to accomplish that. And Parrish doing his best to stop that. 18 for the Chief.
That time, the Bucks went to that trapping defense, and the Celtics moved that basketball crisply and got the easy 2 points.
Our first report from the Celtic dressing room on Ames. Bruised right knee. It is being iced, and he hopes to return in the 4th period, but he doesn't know. Meanwhile, Dennis Johnson brings it down for the Boston Celtics. Inside of the 2-minute mark here in the 3rd period, and again it is Parrish. Short that time, but Bird runs it down. Offensive rebound. 18 for Bird. Possession. Crowd said he traveled.
He did.
Quick pass to Moncrief, and Day is there defensively. Johnson bangs into Pierce, gives it up, intercepted Cummings. Off Moncrief, tries to control it, but it's into the hands of Roberts, and Moncrief crashes hard. 2-on-1, Celtics advantage. Johnson for the layup. At the 1-minute mark, Dennis Johnson ties the game at 86. Lucas has to give it up, and here's Moncrief. 1 second. The shot on its way. Score the 3, and there will be a controversy. There will be a controversy over this. Eddie Rush waving Casey Jones and the Celtic assistants back. Now they're conferring with Jess Kersey. Is this 3? Score it, says Rush. Put it down. Now you watch. Did Moncrief get the 3 off in time? He rises up.
No.
He did not. But they do not use instant replay in the NBA. You can score it. It is Milwaukee 89, Boston 88. And we'll return to the Boston Garden in Boston, Massachusetts after this word from your local station. Period. And Billy Cunningham, tell us about the clock and what exactly is the rule in the NBA.
Now, Brent, we have to see up in the right-hand corner if the clock goes off. Now, the thing is, the ball must leave Moncrief's hand before that light goes off. Goes on, excuse me. And the light is on.
And the ball is not out of the shooter's hand. One time in which the home court advantage did not pay a dividend. How can that be? Well, because the crowd noise was so loud in here, no one could hear the horn or really tell at that moment. So they went over to the 3rd official and ruled that it was good. 89-88, Milwaukee ahead. The winner to take on Detroit starting Tuesday. Sigma muscling inside on McHale, and the foul is going to be called.
Do you think Larry Bird is conscious of that?
Judging from how he reacted in that sequence, I would say he certainly is. In fact, he said to one of the reporters sarcastically after the last game, "Thanks for reminding me." He has ended that skip.
It's called against John Lucas way back there in the lane, trying to give some help defensively.
That was the second one called against Nelson this afternoon. As a result, the Celtics will be shooting, and you know who will shoot the technicals for the Celtics when he's on the floor. Bird ties the game with that technical. You're curious about those numbers involving Larry Bird in the 4th period. They look like this.
You know, Larry Bird has lost approximately 13 pounds to get ready for the playoffs. And one thing he does, he just doesn't eat to lose that weight. And I just wonder if fatigue becomes a problem for him, especially playing 46 minutes a game.
Bird jumped out on Sigma that time. Roberts fielded the miss. We're approaching the 10-minute mark. Game is tied, 91 all. They double Johnson. He comes free, and Sigma with a great defensive play on the block. And here's Sidney Moncrief. Moncrief on the bounce pass. Pressey to the layup. And Paul Pressey has scored 26 for the Bucks.
A perfect pass by Sidney Moncrief.
They pick up Day, who gets it over to Johnson, who's left alone, and hits the jumper to tie it. 9:37 to go in regulation.
You really couldn't ask for anything more than we have today in the 7th game.
Great move by Lucas. Lucas quarterbacking for Coach Don Nelson. Boston Pressey. That's a 2. Rebounding Sigma. Comes in strong. On the turnover, Lucas pressuring on the pull-up over McHale. Hits the jump shot, and that's 20 against Casey Jones and the Celtics for the left-hander.
That was a clinic fast break. 3-on-2. The defense of the Celtics gave up the jump shot, and that's what John Lucas took.
Day with the jump shot using the glass.
We see Larry Bird on the opposite side of the ball, not being involved in the offense.
McHale swinging inside. Parrish keeping it alive, knocked away, and here's Lucas. Now Lucas pressuring, gets it into Pressey's hands, and great effort by Pressey for that field goal. It's 104-96 at the 7-minute mark. It was a moment of truth, if you will, for the champions. They're going to use a timeout right now. And uneasy sits the crowd here in the Boston Garden. There is a ripple going through the crowd. They know the time is running down. Parrish, McHale, and Bird, and it's McHale's jump hook. Parrish's offensive rebound. Staying alive on the inside.
Now, one thing the Bucks cannot do, they cannot become tentative.
They were not on that trip. Ricky Pierce took it right down off the dribble. 16 for the man who was voted the best 6th man in the NBA this year.
Because so many times when you get a lead, you become tentative.
Knocked away from Bird, and I must say, in our assessment of the superstar, we should not overlook the defensive prowess of one Paul Pressey. His confidence against Bird must be surging here.
Well, he knows his teammates are going to come and give that help, like just there.
Now Bird snaps in the jumper from outside. A 6-point Buck lead. Pierce again, this time missing Sigma, tracking down the offensive rebound. And Milwaukee doing better off the glass in the latter stages. And again in the 4th period, the question, do the Bucks have fresher legs than the Celtics? Sigma bounces off, sets. Notice how patient he was when he took his time.
Well, if anybody knows that move, it's Dennis Johnson. The two of them won a world championship together up in Seattle. You see the trapping defense, the ball on the opposite side from Larry Bird.
Here turning, double team by Cummings. Chance for a 3-point play. Inside to Pierce. Pierce 18 points off the Buck bench.
Now they're going, what the Bucks are doing is a 3-man game, looking to get the ball to either Pierce or Sigma.
Seaston. All the way is Pressey. An offensive foul is called. He was out of control, and that is his 4th personal. Nelson not agreeing, however. Seaston hit his last shot. Now it's 2 in a row.
What happens now is that Jerry Seaston has gained the respect of the Bucks, and they'll play a little differently defensively against him.
Now Lucas had to give a big shove to get Seaston off it. Cummings going to work on Johnson. Swings inside with a jump shot. A little too flat. Goes after the rebound. Tries to track it down, and it'll go over. Johnson bringing it up against Pressey, and the foul is called, and that's his 5th. And now the Bucks perhaps losing just a little bit of poise here, and they need their leader. And here he comes. Sidney Moncrief on the floor to see if he can establish a little poise with this Milwaukee team at the 4:30 mark. They are up by 3.
Well, he did that last year in Game 7 against Philadelphia in Milwaukee. He was the one that came in, and he steadied this ball club down, and they beat Philadelphia.
He'll come with Seasting defensively. Bird, big moment.
See the little trapping defense trying to take the Celtics out of getting the ball down low to Larry Bird, and it works.
The slough on Parrish, who's out high, and here comes Johnson. McHale starts his assault, bounces off Sigma, hits the field goal. What would you expect from these two teams?
Well, I would expect that Boston, if they can, they'd like to get the ball in the hands of Larry Bird and allow him to make the decision either to shoot it or to go inside either to Kevin McHale. I think at the other end, I was surprised that they didn't go to Ricky Pierce against Fred Roberts, because I think that's a mismatch.
Pressey batting the ball out of bounds. We have 2 minutes and 37 seconds left in regulation. Milwaukee ahead by 2, 113 to 111. Roberts staying on the floor. Danny Ainge cannot return because of an injury. Bird turning around is fouled by Pressey, and Pressey has fouled out of the game. And Pressey is complaining to Hugh Evans. He doesn't want a technical in this situation. That is a huge loss for the Milwaukee Bucks.
We'll see what he gets caught doing down here against. Well, you see he's got his arms right around Larry Bird. That's a good call by the official.
So Pressey, who started out oh so slowly in this 7-game series, sits. John Lucas comes in, and Billy, what will they do defensively against Bird?
Well, against Bird, it means Moncrief is going to have to accept the challenge now and have to go after Larry Bird. And no one person's going to stop Larry Bird. The team is going to have to stop Larry Bird.
Bird ties the game. 2:30.
And we also see, Brent, the tempo of this game has changed drastically. It's a slower tempo. It's going to be the execution at the offensive end of the court. And can Milwaukee make that adjustment, because they want to fly up and down the court.
Pierce inside, missing, loose. Dennis Johnson, a 2-on-2 break. Johnson bounces it to Bird inside, and Ricky Pierce commits his 4th personal.
Now Dennis Johnson just makes an outstanding decision right here on the break. He had a chance to take it to the basket, but he realized it, saw the mismatch, and waited for Larry Bird.
A Bird who is starting to soar in the Boston Garden, and the crowd realizes it. And coach Archibald, Parrish, who's on the floor today, Maxwell, and the man of the moment, Larry Bird. He has been in 4 Game 7s. From the free throw line in Game 7, Larry Bird is 41 of 44. And he steps forward now with an opportunity to push the Celtics ahead here at the 2-minute mark.
Now, do the Milwaukee Bucks come down and open the court and look to penetrate, or do they go to a set play looking to isolate one of their players?
Sigma brings Parrish out high. Sigma has scored 9 points in the 4th, but that production was earlier. Pierce up over Roberts, doesn't get it, and here's Johnson.
Well, Ricky Pierce settled for the jump shot. Excellent defense by Roberts. In that case, he's a lot quicker. He's got to look to put it on the floor.
Celtics looking for a little daylight in their lead. Bird swings inside of an injured Sidney Moncrief. Draws the foul, and Nelson furious.
And you can just feel this crowd becoming such a factor that the players are drawing energy from this crowd. This is why you play the regular season, Brent, to get that home court advantage if it does go to a 7th game.
In 7th games in Boston, these Celtics are 11-2. And there is a big reason why. No one has done a better job of putting together a professional franchise in any sport than Arnold Red Auerbach. Bird, scoreless in those 3 previous fourth quarters, now has 13 today. Lucas's 3, not there. Parrish going for the rebound, steps out of bounds. Could not gain control of it. At the 118 mark, it's 117-113. Celtics leading by those 4 points. Don Nelson will huddle up the Bucks.
Now, there's plenty of time left in this game, Brent. And the one thing Don Nelson's got to let the players know that, like, let's make sure when we get that opportunity offensively, we get the good shot. And they have not done that the last 2 times down the court.
Lucas forcing up that 3 from the corner at the 118 mark. When you take a look at the Milwaukee scoring, they lose Pressey, who had scored 28. Sikma faces up on Parrish, stays with it, and Parrish rejects it out of bounds. Johnson goes to save it, crashes out of bounds and gets it done. Dennis Johnson hustles his way into a Milwaukee turnover as he bats the ball off Sikma, and Bird says, let's go quickly.
He is so lucky he did not get hurt right there.
What champions are made of. McHale coming out.
They're going to try and use as much of this 24-second clock as possible.
To the hands of Bird, who throws it up. Parrish with an offensive rebound. And back outside. And the precious seconds tick away on the game Milwaukee Bucks.
That was such a smart play by Robert Parrish. He could have gone up and maybe converted that 2 points, but he knows the clock is more important to the Celtics at this point.
And Parrish coming up is fouled. He'll step to the free throw line. Three seconds remaining, Billy, and Parrish has come back after missing the 6th game with 22 points and 19 rebounds here in Game 7.
It's a shame we don't have a Most Courageous award as well as an MVP award for today, because Robert Parrish, I just watching him yesterday in practice and seeing the pain he was in trying to run. I don't know if he'll be able to play if they get past the Milwaukee Bucks when they go to the next step, playing against the Detroit Pistons.
A Boston-Detroit series would start Tuesday night here in Boston.
Now you notice the lineup that, well, we're going to a timeout right now. It'll be interesting what kind of lineup that Don Nelson comes back with.
Robert Parrish returning to play a brilliant game here this afternoon for them. And Larry Bird coming alive in the 4th period. But yet with 33 seconds, the Bucks still have a chance. They are down by 5. Hodges, a 3-point whiz, gets it over to Sikma. Sikma puts it down the floor, drives left-handed, misses, and Parrish wrestles for the ball, can't come up with it, but the whistle had sounded. There will be a jump ball. Could be the closing moments of a coaching career in Milwaukee for Don Nelson. That story is still to unfold.
Yeah, at first I didn't think Dennis Johnson was going to get back here because that's the ball game.
The Boston Celtics are still alive. It'll go over to Milwaukee, and Sidney Moncrief signaling a timeout for Don Nelson. That is their last timeout. You know, Casey Jones never is voted Coach of the Year. No one in. Where will Don Nelson be next year? If I had to guess, he will either wind up as coach of the New York Knicks or as general manager of the Golden State Warriors. We'll wait and see. At any rate, for those fans back in Milwaukee, even if they lose, they have given a game and determined effort in this series, coming all the way back from 3-1. His record with Milwaukee, and remember, he was the youngest coach ever to win 500 victories. And the man who is conquering him here this afternoon, K.C. Jones, was a teammate with Nelson right here in Boston for 2 years. They formed part of a championship team. Hodges is inside the three-point line. Clock down to 2 seconds. And the crowd waiting to explode. The Celtics have won another 7th game at home.